Exception, Blacklisted Podcast.
All right, what is going on, guys? We are here with another podcast outdoors. Honestly, it's really nice being out here. The setup just sucks.
It's like 65 degrees. It's great.
Yeah. So we might just keep doing them out here, weather forbidding. But before we get started here, just wanted to give a shout out to a couple of our sponsors here. Trainbox for obviously hosting us. They're in Roswell, Georgia. If you guys need some fitness goals, group classes, personal training, whatever it might be, they're your spot in the Alpharetta, Roswell area. Repair, perform, recover, and hybrid spine and sport. Did I say that right this time? Sweet. Those are our physical therapists and PTs that are in our network that kind of help us out with all of our athletes' needs, whether they have just kind of some cranky shoulders or a genuine injury. They'll help you recover and get back into training hard. And then FG0, great energy drink company, check them out. And then as well, Great Group Tactical with custom fitted weight vests. So you guys can check them out if you are looking for a new weight vest. So Griffin, thanks for coming out again today. Dan is currently driving to Vegas, where you guys will be when this podcast is released.
Mm-hmm. Driving. Keyword driving.
Yeah, wild. Yeah, so today we're just going to talk about daily mindset of a competitive athlete. And we're going to try and answer the question, what does the mindset of someone who has a performance goal look like? So, Griff, you want to kick it off maybe with some initial thoughts there? Or?
Well, first it's kind of like, it's how do you approach every day?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's, and everyone's going to have some different things and way to think, but at the end of the day, the correlation and the overlap for everybody is you got to be mentally tough.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the end of the, like that's the first like thing. If someone's like, "What is your mindset for goals?"
Yeah.
Mental toughness.
Yeah, I almost think like take it back a little bit too, and like job completion is like first and foremost, because I think there's a lot of people that have performance goals, but then they get lazy, distracted, whatever it might be. So that was the big thing that I learned in the military was like job completion comes first, and once you focus on that and that's your kind of like driving factor, a lot of the other stuff starts to fall into place. And like before we started, you said we were probably gonna have some like differing opinions on this. So but yeah, talk a little bit more about like mental toughness and why.
Well, I already would think like for me that comes into a lot of play for most people for job completion.
Okay.
Because a lot of people don't want to complete the job.
Yeah.
It's a great way to like say like an overtone of the whole thing is like you need to be able to complete the job, which, I guess if you look at it, is completing that goal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And everybody finds a moment in time where they're like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Even though that's all they've wanted.
Right.
Whether it's burnout, which is natural, on anything, even if it's like for a project for school.
Mm-hmm.
But completing that job. So then that becomes the mental toughness side of, you gotta like, you can't start having the doubt, whether it's doubt because you don't think you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's another point of it. But understanding like you have to wake up with a purpose, and that purpose is completing that goal.
Mm-hmm.
So again, starting with small goal, like, so you have an over goal or big goal, right? And start with small goals for each day, small tasks, things that you can complete for wins, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the mental toughness on those days that like you don't want to do it, those are the days that you get better and that you get better towards that goal. So obviously specifically talking about a sports performance goal, like it's really, really streamlined into that mental toughness side of things aren't even going your way one day. It may not even be just that you don't want to. Things aren't going your way.
Just a shit day in the gym.
Shit day in the gym, and all of a sudden you're like, I suck, I don't want to do this, I can't. Well, shut the hell up.
Yeah.
Shut the hell up. Tell yourself to do that. Like,
right.
Don't let that get you. And everyone feels it, so it's okay that it happens, but it's what you do with that first thought in your brain that's negative, telling yourself you can't do it. Because the only person that can really change anything is you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, when I take a look at this, I kind of break it down into like, so like job completion is the overarching goal. And then you have kind of like subcategories that fill in itself after that of like, what's your daily task and then focusing on your daily task versus focusing on the end goal, I think is a big thing. We can kind of maybe get into that later. Discipline, like in creating habits, because that kind of goes into like, hey, when you are feeling shitty and you do have like a bad day and you don't want to be in the gym, if you just have created the habit and the lifestyle of getting into the gym, it just becomes a routine, and now you're in the routine of going to the gym. I think visualization is a big thing as well. And then as well, mental toughness when like, yo, this shit fucking sucks so much, and just like being okay with that, and then being okay with hurting, I think is where like a lot of that mental toughness comes in.
Yeah, creating habits for sure is a massive one.
Yeah.
If you don't have good habits, you'll fail.
Yeah.
Your goal's
Yeah.
gone. So like that's a good. So creating good habits is for sure one. Obviously, everyone like the goal is to accomplish that goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's your overarching thing. But habit forming is major.
Mm-hmm.
Which habit forming also helps your mentality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of being tougher.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Every opportunity you have, you can choose to be tough, or
Yeah.
you can be soft.
Yeah.
And you have to continue to keep growing that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very good like. I think with like having to be able to approach that goal and what you're looking around for, like what your daily approach has to be for like mindset. Big thing is what's your habit like.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
habits form the ability to do these things.
Yeah. So I think let's stay on that for a little bit maybe. And like, I know in today's society we have all sorts of like chaos going on in the world, right? Like it not just like in the world, but like day-to-day life, and like everything's just crazy. You're on Instagram, you're seeing stuff all the time, our attention's being pulled every which direction. What do you find like works best for creating habits and like getting into a routine of something?
Your environment, creating the environment for those habits.
Okay.
Right. So, and that could be talked about for a million different ways and things, but I'll give an example. If your environment is negative, whether it's home life, whether it's friends, maybe it's just you don't have the right gym, you don't have the right training partners, whatever it is. To create the environment will help create the habit that you want.
Yeah.
And by doing that, like for instance, I'll start with like for me, one thing that I like to do that is I'm gonna watch either videos, so visualization, but of other great athletes that have really solid habits that have accomplished high level goals that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with other like-minded people. Those habits will start to rub off. Not everyone does the same one. But I mean, it's as simple as putting up posters in your room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like not the whole like live, laugh, love bullshit. but like I don't know, a picture of Michael Jordan, and it's got like it's something serious that he said, or Tom Brady, or whatever don't like. Okay, let's say you're CrossFit specific, right? You don't need to put Matt Fraser on your wall, like you can, but
right.
Other greatness happens everywhere. It might be, I mean, whether you like him or not, Elon Musk, like.
Yeah.
You know, find people, because there's no way he's not successful as he is without the habits he formed. The amount of things he has to do every day, I like think about it all the time. I'm like, how the hell is he on Twitter talking to people?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
But the habits you formed and created to become successful, of course, I don't know what his goals were, but they've got to be close to what he's at.
Yeah.
He probably hasn't even hit them. I think I know he wants to land people on Mars.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Everyone has to have some similar idea of creating these habits. So posters on your wall, listening to podcasts that are going to help build that daily mindset or habits. It doesn't have to be David Goggins, right? They can be.
Please don't.
but find things that are good for your mind. Like we absorb so much that we don't think so. Instead of Instagram scrolling, right? Like listen to something that's going to motivate you. And it doesn't have, and like motivation like fades. But surround yourself in an environment that builds you towards those habits that you want.
Totally. And I think with that one, it's a never-ending search, right? Like I remember watching Quarterbacks 2 years ago on Netflix, and Kirk Cousins was going through Barnes & Noble picking up books, and can't remember which one he pulled off the shelf, but he was like, I think it was Dwayne Wade actually. He's like, I love just reading about how other high achievers have success.
Yep.
And like, that's something that you kind of, and like he's already having success in the NFL, like, granted, he probably hasn't achieved his goal of winning a Super Bowl, but he's just continuing to learn of like, okay, how do I make these habits better? How do I make X better? And like, how do I reinvent myself to continue to strive towards that goal? And so I think that's something that's like a never ending process. And like, you can use tools like putting up, like, I think everybody knows deep down like what they should be doing and the habits that they should be creating, et cetera, et cetera. But there's just so much information about that like putting the posters in your room or putting a sticky note on your mirror in the bathroom or something like that just gives you like that daily reminder of like, oh yeah, this is why I'm going out there and doing that, or this is the, whatever. Like, I always talk about like themes for the year, which was Last Dance,
right.
Chicago Bulls. Like, this is the theme for the year, and this is why I'm motivated to go and do this. And
Yep.
so, and that motivation, it does fade, but it does give you a little bit of like why to go in and like make sure you're sticking to your habits and being disciplined about your habits. But I think it's a never ending learning process and a never ending reevaluation process.
Right. You have to be able to look yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
Right? And then, like you said, it's like reevaluate and reinvent sometimes yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because not only is it like, as you grow, like you change and like your mindset will shift.
Yeah.
Right? A mindset does shift.
Yeah.
It just needs to shift in the right way.
Yeah. And I guess this kind of maybe brings it into the practice of mindfulness, which I think kind of falls under another like tool, I guess, for developing some of these kind of like bigger points. But like just being sure that this goal is what you want to chase after. And like, because like you said, mindset does shift, it does change. And like, I was 10 years into the sport, 10 years into the sport or whatever. And every year I had kind of something different that I was trying to chase after. And eventually it just got to the point where it was like, I was reflecting enough, being like, yep, this isn't what I want to do anymore. Like, I want to coach people now and I want to help them achieve success. And that's what I want to take the next step to. And so like, just making sure you're checking in along the way as your mindset is changing and really evaluating whether this is something that you genuinely want to chase after or not.
Right. Did in the military, did you guys have shifting like mantras, like you said, like yearly? Like obviously the military all has their subsect of what they want, but did did you guys have like it change ever, or is it always the same thing?
Man, the military is just it's such a different animal.
It is, but
there is like and I think the big thing for that was like there was like a foundation of like doing your job, being a high performer in your job, because you didn't want to look like a piece of shit inside of your community, basically. So you were constantly trying to prove yourself to the others around you that like, hey, I'm good at this, I can perform, I can do my job, because you get ostracized real quick if you couldn't, right?
Hell yeah.
And then like there was just this like ever growing anger and hate, at least in the Marine Corps, that just like bubbled over, that you would just use that energy to propel yourself forward at all times, basically. I think that's a little bit more Marine Corps specific, just getting screwed over by command, and like there's other branches that kind of you're just like, why? But I think that was like more so in the Marine Corps, if that makes sense.
That prepares you for life.
Yeah. There is really nothing that could happen that phases me anymore. So
that's solid. So like the reason I asked that is like, and every podcast isn't bringing football up, but I swear football is one of the greatest life teachers you could ever have the opportunity to be a part of. Mm-hmm. And it's not just football, sports in general.
Yeah.
But I played at almost every sport but baseball.
Okay.
And I always found football was the greatest teacher.
Okay.
And it's not because necessarily of you're trying to put a ball in an end zone. Mm-hmm. It's all of the other things. So everyone's goal should win the championship on a football team because it's a team sport. Everyone wants to be the best. I get it, and that's how you all challenge yourself to get where you need to be. Again, so having an environment, naturally you have a good environment typically.
Yeah.
Unless your team's a bunch of shitty ass people, which happens.
Yeah.
And coaches and things like that. But everyone sits down before the season starts. You have training camp, and like your goal is to go win. And it's not only to win; it's to win the championship.
Yeah.
You don't always win every game. Obviously, that is a goal. But what you start doing is starting to create stairs, and each week is one stair, and you can break it down to every day as a step.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes the stairs flatten out, and then they keep going up.
Yeah.
Don't let them come down. So like one way you look at it, a lot of football teams have 12 games in a year, or now it's getting bigger and longer seasons, but we'll just say it's 12. Like week 1 is your first team, right? And all week you're focused on that. You're not focused on week 2. You're not focused on the championship.
Yeah.
That was the overarching goal. How do we approach winning week 1? And that's showing up practice day 1. That is also watching film before you got to practice. That's making sure you visualize what you're doing every single time for every single rep. Like if you're not out there, like you need to be on the sideline paying attention, thinking and watching yourself do those things, or picking up on how your teammates are practicing. And like all these just small little stair steps. And the reason I bring that up, like I won't get too far into it, is start like that with your goal. Create these stairs. Create whatever steps those are, and you focus on that step. Don't focus on the furthest thing, which is maybe for you it's winning the games. Okay, cool, got it. How do you get there?
Yeah.
You can't be like, I'm just gonna go do it. How do you approach your first step? No matter where you are at, where do you approach that first step?
Yeah, and I think that is like definitely like something like maybe we'll just get into that now, because like especially with like kind of the habit creation and focus and stuff like that, people tend to look long term they look into the future at what they're looking at trying to accomplish what they're set out to accomplish today, rather than accomplishing it 8 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. And I think it's hard for people to see the long-term progression of things. And maybe that's why people do have ADD, is because they're just like, that's not happening today, so I'll just go and do whatever. When the reality is, it's like your performance-related goal happens after years of accumulated work. And so the best way to accomplish that goal is to focus on what the task is at hand in the moment, in the day. And that was something that I practiced a lot when I was training. Was okay, I would get 2 weeks worth of workouts or whatever it might have been, but I'd skim through it, see if I had any questions, see what looked fun, what was going to be an annoying day or whatever it might be. But then that was it. I was done with that. Like I'd roll through it one time. Maybe I remembered some of the stuff, maybe I didn't. But then every day I would just pull up, okay, what do I have today? And I would only look at today. And I would do that like probably in the start of the day, maybe at night before when I was putting like results in or whatever. And then throughout the day, before I'd go in and train, I would just be like thinking about that session obsessively and like visualizing having success inside of the lift, what I was going to try and hit for the lift, how do I lift the most pounds out of the lifting portion, what was I going to do pace wise for the workout, what does that look like running through it in my head. But it was always just, this is what I need to do today to accomplish what I want to accomplish 8 months down the road at the start of the next season or the end of the next season. So I'm just going to focus in on today. And I think that is maybe a little bit of a lost art. I think it was easier probably 10, 12 years ago.
Actually, I mean, yeah, for sure, with all the stuff that you're distracted by, right? I'm the same way. I think I would be willing to bet almost every single great athlete has to do that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I don't think I don't know of one that doesn't do that.
Yeah. Well, and like I mean, if you listen to like, I don't even like if you listen to Brady, Jordan, Kobe, like they weren't talking about the games next week or whatever in their interviews. They were literally talking about the game today, and like, um, it's not you're focused in on what you need to do now rather than what you need to do in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or whatever it might have been throughout the season. So yeah,
It's kind of like so everyone wears the shirt or says 1% better every day. Bitch, okay. 1% better this exact second.
yeah,
And then do it again.
Yeah.
And then do it again. And like that's how you grow. It's not just like, oh, I'm gonna get better today because I'm gonna get better. How do you do that?
right.
You approach each opportunity, every rep, every second, like everything you do, and that might sound like, oh my god, it's overloading. It's not. It's really not.
It's actually condensing.
Yeah, just be mindful.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I think I got really good at this in it was in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 8th grade? It was in middle school. I'm trying to remember which class it was in. It was one specific class. No, 6th grade. 6th grade, I had a substitute teacher. She came in. It was supposed to be like in like our English or language class,
Mm-hmm.
and like had this kind of talk with us, like
Mm-hmm.
being mindful about. And I was like, what kind of substitute teacher is gonna come in here and tell us this shit? But like, I swear to God, since that day, my life just went like this.
Yeah.
It was that day. It wasn't before. It was that day because all I did was instead of worrying about the future of things and how to get like in the NFL and all the, what was I like going to approach my next class, my next assignment, my next question, and just be mindful. And when you're mindful, you're like in a time warp. Like time just flies by, and you're like, oh my God. But that's because you're so focused on what's right now that you're not worried about or have anxiety about what's coming in the future, right? And by doing that, if you are in that moment and you're choosing to be better and choosing to be your best self, you're gonna get where you need to be.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. And that was something I think I learned in the Marine Corps a little bit more. Is like, you do a lot of shitty things and you're awake for a lot of hours. Like, so like if you're focused on like, oh, what's the next crappy thing that I have to do, or what's the next bullshit that I have to like go accomplish, it drains you. And like you're not gonna finish any of the schools that you're in. You're not gonna do shit. Like, so it was really, you just had to focus on what you were doing at the time, and that made time go by faster. There's also like a saying, like, because we were doing so much shit, like, you can't stop time. So if you just focus in the moment and just keep plugging away at something, eventually that bullshit is gonna end.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it might not be bullshit that you're doing. Military is a lot of bullshit. But like whatever it is you're doing training wise or whatever, that tough part of life is gonna end, and you're gonna be better for it at the end of the whatever that session is.
Yeah, for sure. I think that is a good point of like, okay, so the belief is it will get better.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've gotta, like, there's 2 points, and we can decide which one to go into. You have to have hope or belief in something, especially yourself.
Yeah.
I personally, from my experience, and some people might tell me I'm crazy, and that's fine, but like, the belief in a higher power of accountability helps me understand like everything will be fine. So like there's nothing to worry about. So now focus on what's right now. I think people that don't have whatever it is, whatever religious belief, whatever you want it to be, if you don't have something to tell you like at the end of the day everything's good, like you're going to be worried about that, and you're not going to be okay every day with trying to get better in the moment because you're so concerned about what's going on later on. I think it's a big major piece of like mentality of how you can approach things. And then the other side is passion. Like if you don't have passion for what you do, what are you doing?
100%. Yeah.
Because those form those habits.
Right.
How badly do you want something?
Yeah.
And I'll say like, for me specifically in the sport of CrossFit, there was a time I wanted to win the games badly, and I got really good. However, it was still not as passionate as I was about football. You couldn't pull me away. As much as I hated things, there's things I hated about football, and I don't forget that. A lot of people are like, oh, I forgot about like the relationship. Like, why did I break up with that person? And then you're like, oh yeah, because I hated all these things. Like, actually, I still love all the things I hated about football.
Yeah.
Like, there was a lot of bad shit.
Yeah.
But you could not pull me away, and the passion, I swear, was what drove me every decision, every choice. And
Yeah.
like, this is what Fraser talks about too, and every great like Jordan and all of them, they all talk about this. And it's a sacrifice, and people, like, I think I posted this on Instagram. It was like, be prepared to be unrelatable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, people won't relate to what you're trying to do when you have these great achieving goals, because it's outside the norm, which I don't think it should, but it is.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with those sacrifices.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. And like, I think, you know, maybe we can get into this in a second, but like, I tell people that in order to accomplish something great, that reality doesn't exist. But you have to live as if that reality is going to exist, and no other reality exists other than that reality.
Yep.
Not even reality itself. And it's a super difficult concept for some people to understand, because essentially you are like lying to yourself, but you're living what you're going to accomplish in the future, and eventually that reality will come true. And it's just like, when you have the passion to be able to do that, you're a pretty unstoppable force that's going to accomplish whatever it is you set out to accomplish.
Lying is essentially like a perspective of belief that just hasn't happened yet, right?
Yeah.
So like, people are like, oh, it's lying, but
it's not.
Also,
like,
I just felt like fucking Gandhi saying that. That was
Yeah.
that was some up here shit. But like, you have to believe. Like, I was lucky enough to have parents that told me, it's like, truly, if you set your mind to something, you can do it.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah.
And if you can't not just say that, you can't say that to yourself.
Right.
Like, you have to actually believe in yourself to do that. And yes, there are parameters. Like, you might, like, you can't be like, oh, well, I have one leg, and I want to, like, I want to be, like, whatever. Like, like, and that, like, for a sport that you need two legs for, like,
right.
But that doesn't mean you can't be something great in something else.
Right.
So, like, you have to, like, do have some type of parameters, but you want to be the best, I don't know, violinist of all time. Cool. You need to fucking believe that.
Right.
Dude, I don't care if everybody in this world says, no, you can't. Yes, you fucking can. But if you don't believe hard enough and take the steps to do so,
you've already canceled that reality out from existence.
Gone.
It doesn't exist, and so therefore it can never be fulfilled. And it's just like yeah, whether it becomes fulfilled or not, you have to have this unwavering thought that it's going to happen for it to even be a remote possibility.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, it's already gone, and you're never going to accomplish it.
I think it's like, at this point, like, I almost forget that that's a thing.
Yeah.
Because that's like, it's so innate.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's been years of cultivating. That's why sports are great, because
Yeah.
these help cultivate that.
Right, right.
Great coaches, great athletes, great friends, like, really do cultivate this stuff. And like, it's real. Like, you have to create this reality in your brain. And like, you just that has to be your belief. That is your reality every day, every second.
Yeah.
I used to have coaches like tell me, like, you know, they thought I was like really good, but like, sure, like, all I need is one opportunity.
Right.
And like, sport wise, I was always the guy, like, if I got an opportunity, people would be like, wow, how the fuck did he just do that?
Yeah.
Right? But like, visualizing being able to do those things and believing in yourself, like, especially in a sport where you go against people, when you believe harder and those people have doubt or wavering, you're gonna break them.
Yep.
You're going to beat them. Like, it's just going to happen.
Yep.
You can outwill someone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And that belief is so important in yourself. So like, again, if you don't create the right environment, if you don't have the right habits, if you don't have the right people around you, you're not listening to the right things, you can say poisoning or toxic, like poisoning your mind away from what your goals are, right? People that, oh, it's okay, like, you know, like, I'm not saying not to enjoy your life, okay, but
there's a time and place.
There's a time and place.
Yeah.
I don't regret at all 1 second the sacrifices I made, and other people, like, I lost friendships, I lost, like, girlfriends, like, or girls that I was dating, like, because they were like, I am so far into what I'm trying to do that, like, now where I'm at now, I've actually taken a step back, and that's why I love coaching so much right now. And I still love being an athlete, but I'm at a place now where, like, I'm okay with how much I've given, and I still have more to give, but I've understood, like, what that looks like. So my goals are different, but I'm so much happier with, like, now I get to enjoy some of my life with the people that I want to be around. And that was sacrificing so many years, but, like, it brought me to where I'm at now.
Right.
And, like, it shifts. Again, like we talked about, mindset will shift, and your goals may change eventually. But, like, I don't regret sacrificing that time in those days and those small decisions that pushes some of that environment away. And you have to be okay with knowing that's going to happen.
For sure.
Right? Again, and we're talking this is obviously at an elite level of extreme goals.
Yeah, and I had mentioned getting into something, and Dan had written down whether it becomes healthy or not.
Right.
And I think one of the things that I wrote down is, if it turns into an obsession, it becomes unhealthy, but it drives performance.
Correct.
If it isn't an obsession, but it's something that you're working on, it will become healthy because you're going to learn a lot of life lessons from it that you can apply to other areas of your life, but you might not ever drive performance, if that makes sense. You'll get better, but it won't be at, like, a crazy elite level.
Right.
And so there's, like, this spectrum of, like, if you let it become an obsession, your performance gets better, it's unhealthy. If you're doing this and you're learning these things as you go, someday it might turn into an obsession, like when you've gathered all the tools and you understand how to, truly chase a performance goal. And if that is something that you want, right, bring it back to mindfulness, like making sure it's what you want, you'll start to drive performance. But if you're doing it, you're learning a lot of these lessons, it might transfer over to something else in your life that you might be passionate about, right? And you'll get better, but you will never, like, be a freak. But it's much healthier in the grand scheme of life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say, like, the one thing that is unhealthy, regret.
Yeah.
And if you're that person that knows how bad they wanted something, you can decide where, yes, obsession is unhealthy for people, but it is unhealthy to regret not choosing to do that.
Yeah.
If that was your ultimate goal. So like there's a balance, there's a scale, right, of, like, do I want to be a CEO? Do I want to be the greatest hockey player of all time? Do I want to push my small business to being a $1 million company? Like, all these sacrifices are different. There's sacrifices across the board, and there are certain levels of where the obsession is okay, and there's certain levels that aren't, right? Like, once you have a family, like, you chose to have a family, like, obsession needs to be about your family at this point. Right. It can't be about that sport.
Yeah, there's, like, moral guidelines that you have to, like...
but that's the thing, is, like, obsession isn't... If you're trying to be great, obsession is almost...
It's a necessity. Yeah.
Like, it is. And if anyone tells you you're wrong for that, like, that's why I just said you're unrelatable.
Right.
They don't know.
Right.
And they won't know, ever. And that you have to be okay with that.
Yeah. And I don't even know if I'd frame it as great, but, like, the best version of yourself is what I would frame it as. Because, like, Jordan was genetically different, but you can find similarities in Jordan down the rung, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, he just happened to be genetically different, got the right luck, et cetera, had the right personality.
You rolled 7 100 times in a row on a dice, right?
Right. But you can still mimic those principles, and you can still be obsessed to become the best version of yourself. It might just not come along with all the accolades that Jordan, Kobe, Brady got, if that makes sense.
100%.
So I would say it's more like, you need to become the best version of yourself. You have to be obsessed with becoming the best version of yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
In whatever endeavor it is that you're...
And I think that's where, like, most of, like, my obsession is now, is, like, what's the best version of me? It's not about best version of football or CrossFit. It's like, what's the best version? What's the most I think sometimes you kind of what's the most efficient version of Griffin, which isn't always, but maybe that is the best like of me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's like it's such an important thing that people talk about, because then you'll have coaches that'll tell you like it's not healthy for your for you like mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Some people it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
But also, if it's not for you, you have to reframe and understand you probably will not be the greatest whatever of all time.
Right,
But you can
right.
be still, but you become the best version of yourself
Right.
that way.
Right.
And you have to understand what the difference is.
Yeah.
Right. So like, don't be afraid from obsession, but understand where it needs to come from and what it needs to be about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think maybe let's jump into a little bit more of like positive thinking now, and how that plays a factor into chasing a performance goal.
For sure. I mean, so I did in college. I did it wasn't a thesis. I don't even remember necessarily what we called it, but it was pretty fucking close for psychology. And I did mine on positive and negative reinforcement, on encouragement and discouragement, whether it was athletes, but just basically the testers I had videos set up that gave discouraging words and versus encouraging words, and like as like you might think, obviously over all athletes, encouragement. Sorry, I left out a big point on intrinsic and extrinsically motivated athletes.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Can you just describe what intrinsic?
Yeah,
is?
so like intrinsic athletes are ones that like have just natural drive in themselves. They don't care about the accolades or the trophies. Like, yeah, you do, but like ultimately you want to be the best inside. Nothing. Someone can't be like, well, if I gave you $1 million, it's not going to make you want it more. You just want it, right?
Yeah.
Extrinsically motivated people are the ones that are motivated by the money or by the notoriety or by like everyone likes those things, but like that's what drives you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like the whole test basically showed overall encouragement helped everybody, right? The positive thinking, positive words, positive mindset to build you up. And then like discouragement, obviously those that are extrinsically motivated collapse them.
Yeah.
Right? But the intrinsically motivated athletes actually exceeded at a higher ratio than both encouragement versus like anything else. The discouragement was more so like, oh, you don't think I can fucking do this?
Yeah.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And no, that's not always the best way to like approach things, like because you're in your mind and how you need to like attack yourself, but understand like you can use that from other people if that motivates you, if that drives you to use that. But overall, like as a coach, like if you don't know your athletes, you don't know things, or you don't know yourself that well, encouragement is the best across the board. Right. So like the discouragement's very like specific.
Yeah.
Right. But just to like show that data-wise, encouragement and positive thinking and bringing yourself up will push you to be better always.
Yeah. And I think too, like just talking about that, and like somebody might focus in on like that, the fact that like the negative motivated the intrinsic person. When you look at coaching organizations or sport, etc., it's the coach's job to be positive around the team, and the team's morale needs to be in a positive direction. You might have one-offs of like motivating somebody by like, bet you can't do this shit, and then they go and do it. It's the media's job and the outside individuals to the communities that are going to put negative thoughts and negative connotations around the team, and that's where you're out there to prove those people wrong. It shouldn't be inside of the community. For sure. It should always come from outside the community, and then you're there to prove those individuals wrong.
Right. And also like to that study point, that like that's also on a small snapshot of time. Right. So like for me, like I'm an intrinsically motivated athlete. I always have been, and those things like fucking drove me.
Yeah.
But again, I talked about like my parents always told me you can do anything you want, like blah blah blah. They were the ones also sitting in there telling me like you can do that shit, like even if they were pissing me off. Like I have a really fucked up funny story from my dad, but like in football, and basically I mean he told me to take my football pads off and like go sit with the fucking cheerleaders, and dude, I was crying on the sideline, lost my mind. I was screaming pissed. But he literally, like, he was always positive around me, coaching me, like, building me up. But, like, he knew, he looked at one of the coaches and watch this. And the coach was like, you sure you should have done that? He's like, just watch. And he, like, grabbed me and said, you ready? Like, are you good? Like, are you going to actually give everything you have? Because I was being soft and I wasn't trying hard, okay, to preface, in a game. And pulled me off and like, yeah, and I was just, I couldn't even say words. I was seething. Went out there, 6 plays in a row. Just fuck. Nobody could stop me.
Yeah.
Nobody could stop me. And the coach was like, what the hell? Like, you sometimes, like, you got to know, like, your athletes. But that was a time and a place.
Right.
I always had someone in my back corner, especially the person I trusted the most was my dad, always telling me, like, you can do that. If you want to be that good, you can be there. And you have to understand, like, again, as I said, like, that was a small snapshot of a test. The longevity of these things are going to eventually burn out for that intrinsically motivated athlete. Because your mindset will shift, your goals change, right? So, like, knowing, like, hey, long term, positive thinking, positive and, like, encouraging things are the most important from your closest group.
Yeah, right. Yep.
So, like, starting with close, like, that's why you want that environment. You want the same, similar, like, people that think, they don't think the same, but similar. You don't want always to have a group think situation going on, right? But you need to have that so you can continue to build yourself as well. Because you're not always going to be the most positive in your mind, even though you try to be.
Even though, and that was something I was going to hit on here. Is like, I can't remember what I was listening to or who said this, but they were talking about how they think the life of an athlete is just like an anxiety-filled, like, it's, you know, like, you don't know the future, you're trying to achieve something that's never been achieved before. There's a lot of anxiety around that, and during that process, like, doubt can creep into your mind, and you need the support system there to reaffirm you, because, like, it's a very, very tough life being an athlete, because you're walking into the unknown, and, like, that's always a scary, anxiety filled thing. So, like, you kind of need the support system to be there to help you cultivate that belief in yourself and continue, like, to believe in you. Ultimately, like, you do have to believe in yourself, but there's times where you're going to need help believing in yourself. And so, like, developing a good support system and good community around you that does believe in your abilities is huge. And it's also just like a magnet and something that you want to kind of continuously return to. So, like, diving back into, like, the habit formation and, like, the community aspect that you were building, like, surround yourself with people. You're surrounding yourself with people that believe in what you're going to accomplish and do. It's like a magnet that you want to just keep coming back to, keep coming back to. And, like, that's the sign of a successful organization. Like, it's not to say that there isn't a standard inside of that organization and you have to be told when you are performing to your standard, like your dad did to you. Or when you're, you know, when you aren't and when you are, you know, when you are, it's like building that belief. When you're not, it's like that effort wasn't good enough. And, like, there needs to be some realism with that. But it's like that effort wasn't good enough because I know you can give better, because I know that you are capable of doing this. And it's always comes from a place of fostering belief in somebody, not like, you didn't give effort because you suck and you're terrible, blah, blah, blah. And now you spiral down this negative. It's like, you didn't give effort because I know you're capable of this.
Right. Absolutely. It's also, like, discouragement is also, like, there's a way to also do that.
Yeah,
like, Don't, like, you just suck, like, then you'll never accomplish shit. Like,
yeah.
You know, it's like,
right.
Like, that's not the point. You have to it has to come from someone that actually believes in you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, if you're not like, for, like, CrossFit specifically, nobody's, like, well, people are screaming at you in the stands or whatever, right? But, like, when you're training, don't forget about being out there, which I also don't ever hear people when I'm competing.
Yeah, that's
like,
zoned out.
Yeah, like, I'm not gonna hear.
You're so.
I never heard anybody in the stands ever in a football game, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there. I've never heard of them.
The only thing you might do is, like, train yourself to hear one specific person, like your coach or something like that, and you can pick that voice out of the crowd. But outside of that, it's like you're not hearing a single fucking
nothing.
person.
And then, so now, what are you hearing? Your own voice in your head. What is that voice saying?
Yeah.
So, let's say it's something obviously, if you're really good at it, you're probably going to just have positive mindset. You're going to be like, oh, I'm going to smash this, whatever, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, right? What about the stuff you're bad at? Running. What if you're not a good runner?
Mm-hmm.
You're normally running for a while. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like 10 seconds. I mean, unless you're doing a sprint. That time, yeah, you're probably not. You're not even thinking. But what are you going to tell yourself when you're tired?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, my ankle hurts. My legs feel like jello. Oh, I can't breathe. What
Yeah.
are you saying to yourself?
Yeah, right.
If you're just pointing out those things that hurt, you're gonna slow down.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're telling yourself, and you have to practice this, like,
Yeah.
you're good at this. Like I like to pick out like specific detailed things because then I can focus on this one small task.
Mhm.
Again, time flies by faster that way.
Mhm.
I don't have to have a full-on conversation with myself,
Yeah.
but just repeating something over and over again.
Yeah. So yours is a mantra, or are you focusing on something else?
It depends on what it is.
Yeah.
It depends on what movement or what exercise or what workout, but I normally pick something out. So like, there was a year like I got really, really good at running. I was running a 19-minute like flat 5K, which for a big dude is cruising.
Yeah.
And in training, I kept telling myself over and over, "You're really good at running."
Mhm.
That's all I said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime it hurt, and like it just kept building, and then finally then I'm like, I'm actually good at running now.
Yeah.
Like, and if it continually telling yourself that, you're like, oh shit, like no matter, like I'm gonna give the effort and you're going to have a good outcome.
Right.
So you're good at running. Keep running.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yep.
Go. And like then time flies by when I'm repeating that over and over. I forget about the pain because you're settling into what you're saying to yourself, and pain kind of subsides a little bit. And next thing you know, you're almost done. You're like, oh
Yeah.
shit. Like,
Sweet. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like again, kind of lying to yourself.
Right. Well, you're cultivating a reality that might not exist now, but you're gonna make it exist.
Yeah.
And it could not exist if you choose not to believe that reality.
The conspiracy of realities. But yeah, like literally, like you're creating. If you don't create it now, it's not going to be there in the future.
Mhm.
But if you are creating it now, it is there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like,
And you're believing it. You're telling yourself that reality is going to exist. No matter what anybody might say, like, oh, Griffin's too big to be a good runner, or whatever it might be, you know? Like, you're like, fuck you. I live this, and I'm going to make it happen.
also another intrinsically motivated Griffin sucks at running. Oh yeah, fuck you. But 10 hat with the reality.
Yeah. Multiple universes. But yeah. I think for me it was always like, what is the pacing strategy, and what am I trying to accomplish in this? What do I know that I'm capable of, and how do I hold on for dear life when that starts to get challenging? And so I would start to, there's multiple different things that you can do, like to play games with yourself in your head when shit gets hard. Counting down, we'll just use calories on the rower, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna go 5 calories at 1400, then I'm gonna see where I'm at. Okay, I'm gonna go another 5 calories at 1400 and see where I'm at. Okay, I'm gonna go another 5, and shit, you just knocked out 15 of your 50 calories at 1600 calories per hour, right?
Yep.
And now and maybe it started hurting at 25 calories. Well, shit, I only have 15 calories to go. I'm just gonna push it, So there's a bunch of different games you can kind of play with yourself, and maybe it's like, okay, I know that I need to focus on my last little extension in the snatch, right? And so that's your only focus on a snatch ladder, and all of a sudden, if you're just focusing on that, you're not paying attention to what the weight is.
Right.
Now all of a sudden you're like, whoa, shit, I'm at, the second to last barbell. This is dope. Like, let's go. And you're like building that confidence as you go. But then you're also like, okay, extension, and you just focus on that extension portion of it. It leaves it leaves the ability for your mind to start wandering to the edges of where your focus should be. And when you get to those edges, you start to get like thoughts creeping in that shouldn't be there, negative thoughts, where like if you can just stay focused on one thing, it will make the work go by significantly faster. And it's challenging, and it's a tool, or it's challenging to develop, Sometimes it can take some time, but a lot of the time that passion that you were talking about earlier will drive that focus, and it'll push a lot of those negative thoughts out.
Yeah, for sure. Like everything you just hit is like it's something that almost goes through like every athlete's head.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're good, like
Right.
if you're achieving your best self.
Right. Like I mean, for instance, like the rowing, like 5 calories, 5 calories, 5
Yeah.
calories. Like okay, 5 was a number for you that worked better for your brain to keep pushing, right?
Yeah.
And you might have started like, I can't do this, but like you did it.
Yeah.
Right. I've had to lie to myself when I have workouts that like I'm in the gym by myself, I'm tired, doesn't matter, like whatever, and like I started out at first like I have 8 sets, and like the first set I'm like, oh fuck, like I can't do this for 8 sets. I'm only gonna do 4.
Yeah, you compromise.
I got
yourself.
through 4. Just you got
more.
4. Do one more. Just do one more,
yeah.
and we can call it. Oh shit, you did one more. All right, last fucking one. You got through 6. Well, you only have 2 more.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like sometimes you have to find a way to lie to yourself, and guess what? All of a sudden you did that with the efforts that you were supposed to do them at, and maybe even harder than you were supposed to.
Right.
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 Like, it's a great way. The other thing is like you hit on weightlifting. So many people have a mental block about weights. Oh, I don't know. Like, let's say in your brain, 315 seems just impossible for a clean. I don't like just the weight. How am I ever going to do that? Stop thinking like that. You have to expand your mind to being like, not only am I going to do that, but I also am going to clean 400 pounds or whatever it is, right? Like, and now like when your goal is set somewhere differently, and then you achieve those little steps to get there, you forgot what 315 was even going to be a problem in your brain anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Re-breaking, like, so you talk about like the edges of things, and things start, those doubts come in. Redefine where those edges are.
Yeah.
As you continually get better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
And along the lines of that weightlifting, then that might be a whole nother podcast.
It's a whole other
like
podcast.
there's such a mindset to weightlifting that I think some people miss out on.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think the games is like playing games and compromising with yourself. Like the compromising game is a huge one to help out to accomplish whatever task it is. And so like maybe that's a takeaway that you have from this podcast is just figuring out how to play the compromising game with yourself. But that one's huge for just being able to accomplish like ridiculous amounts of work that you may have never thought possible. But
It hits at some point. Everyone has to find a way through that at some point.
For sure. Yeah, I think maybe just starting to wrap it up here. Like, what would you say, kind of like the big overarching concepts that somebody needs to have to really start to have a good mindset towards a performance-related goal?
Honestly, I mean, it's just wrapping up everything you just said. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, I would personally still start at task accomplishment.
Right.
Right.
Define the goal.
Yeah.
Right. What's the goal? Okay. How do I approach accomplishing that goal? You start making those small steps, so that they're all task related. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Accomplish those tasks. Obviously, I think overarching, you have to have the passion for it. I mean, you can have goals and just go do them because you're not passionate, because you want to do it, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, you're not going to be great at it or the best at it, but
might take you longer to achieve them,
right,
or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can get there. But yeah, like set the goal, set the tasks to get there. Accomplish small tasks. Start with small tasks, which becomes habit forming.
Yep.
Right. That way you can create good habits. Make sure you have the right environment. You need to get there, and if you don't right now, that's fine. Build towards finding that environment. Build towards creating that environment, cultivating that environment, whatever that is.
There's always a way to manipulate what your your current circumstances are.
For sure. And then obviously, if you're like, I don't know what the environment needs to be. I don't know. Like, okay, look at other really successful people.
Yeah, learn from others.
Look around.
Yeah.
Like I hate to tell you, like you're not like you're similar to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're I mean, everyone is special and like has this weird like difference about them, but
right.
Like, if everybody's special, then nobody's special. So
right.
Like, what's great about this is, don't be like, oh, whatever. Like, if you want to be great, there's not that many people that were great.
Yeah.
And special in that area.
Right.
There's tons of special and great people across the world, but in that area, not as many, right? Especially when you're looking at the very elite.
Yeah.
Right. So look around, like try to mimic things and then expand off of that.
Yep.
That will show you how to cultivate the environment you're looking for.
Right.
Obviously, like coaches are a big part of that too. Right? But especially in this sport. Again, I wish I didn't have to do that by myself, but I learned a lot from it, which I can also now pass on to people. And then I think honestly that's all you need to start. That's just where you need to start.
Yeah.
That's it. Just start there. Don't make it any more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah. I think maybe I'll dive into like some of the tools that you can use to do that. Like mindfulness is a big one. Visualization is another big one.
I think visualization might be the most underrated, underdone thing on this planet.
Yes, 100%. I have so many athletes that I'll tell them to be, like thinking about the workout all the time, and I'll come up to them like, all right, so what's your game plan here? Like, oh, I don't know. Like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, you should have been thinking about this, like, if a qualifier workout gets released on Thursday night, you should have had trouble sleeping that night because you were so amped up thinking about how you're going to accomplish this, whatever this qualifier workout is. Or you should be so hyped throughout the course of the morning because you're like thinking about what you're going to do on this qualifier. And I think that's, it's whenever you're visualizing something, it's just reps. And I get people all the time talking to me about how scared they are of the workout. Well, it's because you haven't run through it in your mind yet. And when you run through it in your mind and you genuinely recreate that to the best of your ability in your mind of when it's going to hurt, how you're going to break things up, what the atmosphere is going to be like, what you're literally hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, everything. As much as you can recreate the whole scenario, that's a whole rep of a workout that you've run through before you even started the workout. Maybe you do it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, whatever it might be before you start that workout. And now you have 4 workouts of experience before you're even going into that one workout.
Right.
And yeah, I think it's a super underutilized tool.
Yeah. Dude, I used to visualize every football game.
Yeah.
I would visualize how I was going to make plays, and I'd also visualize the crazy plays I made. And guess what?
They happen. Yeah. What was that Conor McGregor fight? I can't remember who it was, but he's like, I'm going to knock him out in 8 seconds with this. He's going to come at me. I'm going to be stepping backwards. I'm going to hit him with whatever it was. And that literally happened like to the T.
Yeah. There's studies on it, and I can't remember the exact percentage, but if you visualize, and I don't remember how many times you have to visualize it, whatever, but there's enough research now. If you literally go look this up, not lying, visualize what you're doing, and it was over 60% of adaptation towards you actually doing that rep. So shooting a basketball for a free throw. If you sit there and visualize, obviously you have to visualize doing it right, not wrong.
Right.
Like that's the other thing. But people adapted and were able to be more successful at shooting free throws. I think this was literally about free throws without even shooting a basketball.
Yeah.
Visualize and attack.
Yeah. And
I try to tell, I don't what movie, what fucking throw some stupid movie, isn't it? Oh God, I can't remember. Oh no, it's from The Waterboy. It's from the fucking Waterboy. Visualize and attack, but he does. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
But visualizes it and then destroys everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But outside of being in a funny sense, literally visualize and then attack. Because when you don't, like you said, they're worried, they have anxiety. I get performance anxiety. That's just natural. It's almost
nerves are natural, right. But to be genuinely afraid of the workout is.
I've never been afraid of a workout.
Yeah.
And I like to think like this is doubt can or will be the thief of success.
Mm-hmm.
So if you doubt yourself, if you doubt in what your capability is, if I told you, hey, doubt is what's going to keep you from accomplishing your goal, are you going to change your mindset about doubting yourself?
Yeah.
I don't know. But if you do, if you're no, if that's what's going to keep me from being back, I'm not going to doubt myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, don't doubt yourself. Visualize what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Be very attacking is just the best word. Be confident in what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
When you lose confidence, you get doubt, like you become weary of something, you get a little tired, now you like don't, now you kind of fall apart.
Yeah.
Your game plan goes away. And like, that's okay if a game plan goes away, but like, you need to mentally tough. You need to be in there. You need to like be strong. But if you visualize what you're planning on doing, more than likely you're going to accomplish what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, flying's not going to happen. But
inside the realms of human possibility.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So, I think maybe the last little thing to touch on there for like just like tools to help you accomplish this stuff is sit down and think about if this is genuinely something you want to do. And like, Dan wrote down pause, reflect, redirect. And if this is something that you want to do and there is doubt creeping into your mind or you're lacking confidence, something like that, try to reshape that thought process as much as possible. You do have control over your thoughts. There are some internal and external factors that do play into that, but for the most part, your thoughts are things that you can control. And even if you don't necessarily feel right about the thoughts, you can still control those thoughts. And the bad ones might happen more often if you're like in some sort of depressed or burnt out state or whatever. But it just is your job to kind of redirect those, and they're going to come more. Redirect them. They're going to happen up more like frequently. Redirect it into something that's more positive, and eventually you'll get yourself out of that rut. Whether you need to take like medical interventions for that or not might be a different case. But if you don't need to take medical interventions, like just continuously redirecting those thoughts will help you get out of that depressed state, which again, depression is normal. It's a normal thing in life. If you never get depressed, your life's fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, in some shape or form. But like I always like to say is like, control the controllables.
Yeah.
Like, that's from football. Like, can't control the uncontrollable. And there are a lot of things in life and sports and things that happen that are uncontrollable. It's what you do from that. Redirect, and take the next thing that you can control and move forward. Yeah. There's nothing you can do about it. Right? So like in this sport, like the mindset of that, it's like you better control what you can, and that's what you can think.
Yeah.
It's what you're how like the words that you say to yourself, what you choose to do every day.
Yeah.
The way you approach things, you can control all of this. Can't control what people are going to say or think about you. Nobody fucking cares.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, control what you can control.
Yep.
And which is basically everything we just talked about, you can control.
Yeah.
You can control everything we just talked about.
Yep.
Start with that, and you can build the mindset that you need to be successful with those goals that you want.
Totally. And maybe just wrap it up here with a little bit of a quote from Vince Lombardi. He was the first head coach to win back-to-back Super Bowls, being Super Bowl. Was it 1 and 2? Did he win 1 and 2?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he won Super Bowl 1 and 2, I think.
Long
time ago. But what I really like this quote for honestly just summing up the general practice of becoming great at something.
Perfect person for mindset to like look up and like
yeah. So the quote goes, "Gentlemen, we're going to chase perfection knowing full well we will never achieve it. But in the process of chasing perfection, we will touch excellence." And I think that's just a great way to kind of sum up the mindset around chase perfection. And if you're chasing perfection in all areas of whatever it is you're doing, you will touch excellence at some point in time.
Absolutely. R.I.P.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Griff, thanks for coming on. Good luck. Hopefully we had some successful grid matches this weekend. We'll see.
We'll see.
But yeah, we'll catch you guys next time.
Peace out, fam.